We are the most anxious, the most medicated, and the most disconnected generation in human history. We spend billions on wellness apps, on biohacking supplements, on ergonomic furniture designed to make sitting in a chair for 12 hours slightly less lethal. Yet, walk into a home in Kyoto or a small apartment in Kanazawa, and you will not find a single $1,200 smart mattress or a drawer full of adaptogenic mushroom powders. What you will find are tiny, deceptively simple rituals, habits so small they barely qualify as actions, that have been quietly producing some of the longest, most contented lives on the planet for centuries. I still remember the first time I stepped into an elderly couple's home in a narrow alley in Kamakura. The air smelled of steamed rice and tatami, the light was soft, and there was a single white camellia blossom floating in a shallow ceramic bowl on a low wooden table. No noise, no clutter, no visible effort. I felt my shoulders drop 3 inches just standing in the Jenkin. That was not a spa, that was simply their Tuesday afternoon. This is not about genetics. It is not about some mysterious Eastern magic. It is about the compound power of intentional microhabits, a concept the Japanese call kaizen. If you improve just one thing by 1% every day, by the end of a year, you are not just a little better. You are 37 times better than when you started, 37 times. Over the last month, I dove deep into the research coming out of the University of Tokyo and the gerontological studies from Okinawa, and I distilled 12 of these habits into a personal experiment. Some of them are so simple they will shock you. Others are so genius you will wonder why no one in the West ever told you. This is the countdown of the 12 tiny Japanese habits that made a huge difference for me in just 30 days. Habit number 12, keeping a habanishi moment journal. I know what you are thinking. Journaling, we have all tried it. We buy the expensive leather-bound notebook in January. We vomit 3 pages of angst. And by the 4th of February, the book is gathering dust under a pile of unopened mail. This is different. The habanishi is not a diary, it is a container for a single fleeting observation. One thought, one quote, one doodle. The goal is not to process trauma or manifest $1 million. The goal is to trap a moment. Because Japanese culture has this sacred reverence for the fleeting nature of time. The concept of ikigo ikki, one time, one meeting. A quick word before I go on. What I show you here grows out of the old ways the people of my country kept, where nothing was ever wasted. My family gathered the heart of it into the Home Savings Almanac, 12 small books on the old ways of the home. The kitchen and the pantry, the garden, keeping the house clean and warm. The small repairs, and 400 simple ways to waste nothing and save $200 to $400 a month. You will find it linked in the description and the first pinned comment, or you can simply scan the QR code on your screen. If you want it, it is there. I will not mention it again. Every second is a unique treasure that will never exist again, and the act of writing down just one detail, the way steam curled off your tea this morning or the sound of rain against the glass, trains the brain to stop overlooking your own life. I spent 30 days writing exactly 3 sentences a night. That is it. I used a small, flexible notebook with thin graph paper that felt almost like Bible pages, and a fountain pen my friend gave me years ago that I had never touched. The first night I sat there stupidly, staring at the blank page, completely convinced I had nothing worth preserving. Then I wrote, the light through the kitchen window at 6:14 p.m. turned the faucet into a sliver of gold. It felt silly and pretentious. But the next morning I read it back, and the entire evening came rushing back with a vividness that my calendar appointments never gave me. A 2022 study from the University of Tsukuba on expressive writing and emotional regulation shows that even brief, structured reflection significantly lowers cortisol reactivity. But forget the study for a second. The real shock was looking back on day 30 and realizing I had a physical book of proof that April was not just a blur of emails and exhaustion. It was a collection of distinct, precious jewels. I will be honest, some nights I was so tired I wrote the most banal nonsense, like toast. Too crunchy, and that is okay. The habit is the thing, not the masterpiece. Try it tonight. Before you look at your phone, open a cheap notebook and write down one single sensory texture from your day. The coolness of the doorknob. The smell of your sweater. One sentence. It is not therapy, it is archaeology. You are digging for the gold you already possess. Habit number 11. Drinking one glass of water the second you wake up. I can hear the collective groan. Hydration advice is the vanilla ice cream of wellness tips, boring and ubiquitous. But we are not talking about chugging a gallon out of a branded motivational jug. This is a sa-ikai, the Japanese habit of first thing in the morning. It is not about hydration strictly, it is about intention. In Japan, how you wake up dictates the rhythm of your entire day. When you sleep, you lose moisture through respiration. Your blood thickens slightly. Your metabolic machinery is in a hibernation state. By drinking a single glass of room temperature water immediately, you are not just rehydrating, you are firing a starter pistol. Research from the Japanese Society of Internal Medicine points out that this simple rehydration rapidly improves blood flow to the brain, effectively waking up the prefrontal cortex before the cortisol spike of the morning traffic jam kicks in. I used to wake up and immediately reach for my phone, flooding my dry, resting brain with blue light and existential dread about the news cycle. For the last 30 days, I placed a glass of water on my nightstand the night before. I used a simple, heavy-bottomed ceramic cup that felt cool and solid in my hand. The moment my eyes opened, I sat up and drank it in silence. The water was flat and warmish, not refreshing in the way icy water is. But it went down gently, and I could feel my mouth, my throat, my stomach all coming online one by one. It took 90 seconds. The grogginess that usually plagued me until 10 a.m. vanished by the second week. Now one honest note. The first few mornings, my habit brain screamed for coffee immediately. The water felt like a sad substitute, but stick with it. Your body will relearn. You are not lazy in the morning. You are dehydrated and disoriented by a screen. Give the water a chance before you give your attention to the world. Habit number 10. The 1-minute asoji. We look at Japanese homes and we see a minimalist paradise. No clutter, no dust, no pile of laundry on a chair that has lost its identity. We think the secret is organizing bins or a ruthless decluttering rampage. The secret is actually asoji, which translates loosely to big cleaning, but functionally means cleaning as a mindful act, not a dreaded chore. We in the West clean to have a clean house. The Japanese clean to have a clean mind. And you do not need to spend your Saturday scrubbing grout. The Kaizen approach, that philosophy of tiny, impossible-to-fail steps, dictates that you clean one small, sacred space for 1 minute. I chose my desk surface. Every evening after closing my laptop, I set a timer for 60 seconds. I used a soft, undyed linen cloth that I dampened with lukewarm water, and a single drop of hinoki cypress oil I bought from a small shop in Asakusa. The first time, I caught myself scrubbing aggressively, trying to erase every watermark in 40 seconds flat. That is not the point. I slowed down. I wiped the wood in gentle spirals, noticing the way the mineral streaks in the oak caught the light, the faint coffee rings that spoke of late mornings, the smoothness that emerged from under the dust. This is a meditation in motion. A longitudinal study on well-being from Kobe University found that the ritual of daily, attentive cleaning is a stronger predictor of lowered anxiety than the objective square footage of a clean house. It is not the result that calms you. It is the act of caring for an object that signals to your nervous system that you are safe. I will be honest, there were evenings when the timer felt patronizing, when I felt stupid dabbing at a single corner while my laundry pile mocked me from the corner. But I kept at it. And on day 18, I found myself voluntarily wiping down the windowsill afterward, just because the movement felt good. My friend, stop looking at the mountain of dishes. Ignore the cluttered closet. Just take 60 seconds to wipe your desk or fold a single blanket with soft hands tonight. It does not clean your home, it cleans your head. Habit number 9. Eating with chopsticks. Now, this one sounds like cultural cosplay, I know. Stick to the fork, you say. It is more efficient, and that precisely is the problem. The fork is a shovel designed for speed. We hoard calories almost without breathing. Chopsticks, especially for those of us who are not native users, are a forced deceleration device. You cannot shovel, you cannot gorge. You have to pick, select, and the mechanical dexterity required forces you to be attentive to the food. This taps directly into the most powerful health secret in Japan, the Okinawan principle of hara hache bu. Eat until you are 80% full. The stomach has a 20-minute lag time in signaling satiety to the brain. If you eat a burger with a fork in 4 minutes, you blow past the 80% signal before your brain even opens the memo. By eating with chopsticks, you naturally extend the meal to that magic 20-minute window. A study on eating rates and BMI from the University of Tokyo showed that slower eating independently predicted a lower body mass index, regardless of calorie count. For 30 days, I ate everything I could with chopsticks. The first meal was a Caesar salad, and I nearly flung a crouton across the room. I felt like a clumsy toddler. Rice was a lesson in patience. I had to learn to bring the bowl close to my chin, a technique I saw salarymen do in a noodle shop in Shibuya, tipping the bowl and using the chopsticks almost like a trapdoor to guide the grains. By week 2, my hands stopped cramping, and I started to notice the texture of each ingredient. The snap of a blanched green bean, the resistance of a tofu cube. I never finished a plate feeling like a gassy balloon. I felt light. I felt satisfied. And here is the honest caution. You will look weird in a food court. People will glance at you struggling with a burrito bowl. Do it anyway. You are not performing for them. You are performing a metabolic reset for your own gut. I was not counting macros. I was letting physics and ergonomics do the portion control for me. If you want to practice hara hache bu without the white-knuckling willpower, switch your fork for sticks. Habit number 8. The kamorbai walk. There is a word in Japanese for the sunlight that filters through the leaves of trees. Kamorbai. It is a specific, beautiful word for a specific, beautiful phenomenon. And the habit is simply to go outside and look for it. We have pathologized walking. We call it a hot girl walk. We strap on a weighted vest. We track our zone 2 heart rate. We listen to murder podcasts or business audiobooks. We optimize the soul out of it. The Japanese practice is the opposite. You walk to notice the light. You do not walk for the step count. You walk for the life count. In the last 30 days, I replaced my usual frantic coffee walk with a 10-minute search for kamorbai. I chose an old residential street lined with zelkova trees, their leaves thick and layered like green lace. I would pause at a particular spot where the morning sun hit a low branch, casting a shimmering, fractured mosaic of light on the sidewalk. I watched the spots dance as the breeze moved the leaves. There was no goal, no heart rate zone, no playlist. Just the dappled warmth on my skin and the smell of damp earth. This is not poetry without evidence. A study from the Nippon Medical School on Shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing, found that exposure to natural light patterns and fractal geometry in leaf structures lowers blood pressure and reduces the sympathetic nervous system fight or flight activity. Your brain is hardwired to relax when it sees the organic, non-linear patterns of nature. The harsh right angles of a city block are a subtle visual stressor. By hunting for kamorbai, you are biologically hacking your cortisol levels through your optic nerve. A gentle warning, your mind will try to turn this into a task. You will start counting minutes or evaluating whether this is a good use of your time. Catch that thought, release it. This is not a productivity hack, it is an unproductivity hack. Leave the phone in your pocket. Do not try to photograph it, just look. It is a visual vitamin you have been starving for. Habit number 7. One deep breath before opening the laptop. This is the ultimate Kaizen micro-step, a 1% intervention. In the West, we have this ritual of the morning grind. We sit down, we crack our knuckles, we open the lid, and we are immediately bombarded with 16 notifications, 3 urgent emails, and a calendar full of back-to-back meetings. We go from 0 to 100 in the time it takes a screen to boot up. Japanese Zen practice emphasizes the importance of the space between things. The pause, the silence between the notes that holds the music together. Without you have noise. I started taking one single, conscious diaphragmatic breath, with my hands resting on the lid of my laptop. I placed my palms flat on the cool aluminum, feeling the faint vibration of the day's electricity humming inside the machine. I breathed in slowly for a count of 4, expanding my belly like a balloon. Feeling my ribcage widen against my shirt, and I internally stated, I am here. Then I opened the lid. That is the entire habit. It sounds too small to matter, but you are not opening a laptop. You are stepping into a stream of global anxiety, other people's urgencies, algorithmic outrage, and performative busyness. That one breath creates a barrier. It is a Jenkin for your brain. And let me explain what a Jenkin is, because this connects perfectly to habit number 6. Habit number 6, removing your shoes. This is not a joke. It is not a minor quirk of Japanese architecture. The Jenkin, the sunken entryway of a Japanese home, is a boundary between the dirty, chaotic, stressful outside world and the sacred, clean, peaceful interior. When you place your shoes neatly at the doorway, pointing outward so you are ready to leave again, you are engaging in a powerful cognitive division. You are literally stepping out of your street persona and into your home persona. The dirt of the day stays at the door. I remember visiting a friend's apartment in Nagoya, a tiny place, but the Jenkin was immaculate. A row of slippers sat waiting, and his worn leather work shoes were placed side by side with the heels perfectly aligned. He bent down, untied them slowly, and placed them with both hands. It was not rushed. It was a ritual. We in the West track literal and metaphorical mud all over our sanctuary. We wear the shoes we wore in the public restroom on our bedroom carpet. It is a symbolic contagion. A study from the University of Ryukyus on indoor pollutants found that geogenic and anthropogenic particulate matter, that is dirt and lead dust, are overwhelmingly distributed via footwear. By simply taking off your shoes, you reduce these indoor pollutants by a massive margin. But the psychological relief is even greater. I started treating my doorstep like a sacred altar. I do not just kick my sneakers off haphazardly. I kneel down, I untie them, and I place them neatly, toes pointing toward the door. The act of bending down, of tidying the shoes, it is the period at the end of the sentence of my workday. A practical note: if you have mobility issues, you do not need to kneel. Sit on a small stool and remove them with intention. The posture does not matter, the pause does. Try it. Do not just slip out, bend down and place them with intention. You will feel the day wash off your shoulders before you even reach the fridge. Habit number 5, the Uyghur candle. We are ruined by electricity. We assault our retinas with 10.0 Kelvin overhead light bulbs until the very second we try to close our eyes. And then we wonder why we have insomnia. The Japanese term yuogir means dusk, the twilight hour. And for centuries, the ritual of dusk involved lowering the lights, quieting the voice, and lighting a flame as a signal to the body that the performance of the day was over. I bought a simple beeswax candle from a local market, a squat jar with a single wick that smelled faintly of honey and warm wood. Every evening at 7 p.m., no matter what I was doing, I stopped. I turned off the overhead light. I struck a match and held it to the wick until the flame caught. The shift in the atmosphere is immediate and profound. The room transformed. The harsh shadows vanished, replaced by a soft, amber glow that fluttered and breathed. I sat on my sofa and just watched the flame dance for a few minutes. Some nights I read by it. Some nights I did nothing but stare. The flickering, warm-toned infrared light is a biological cue that predates Silicon Valley by 1,000,000 years. It tells the pineal gland that the sun is setting, initiating the cascade of melatonin production. A chronobiology review from Hokkaido University highlighted that exposure to dim, warm light in the evening significantly improves slow-wave sleep restorative quality compared to fluorescent light exposure. For 30 days, I did not watch TV in the dark. I watched the flame. Or I just sat in the near darkness and let my thoughts descend. A quiet caution. You might find yourself getting sleepy much earlier than usual, which can feel disorienting if you are used to powering through until midnight. That is not a problem, it is the point. Do not fight it, go to bed. It is not a blackout curtain. It is a sunset you control. You are not doing this for the ambience. You are doing it to unscrew the light bulb that is destroying your circadian rhythm. Habit number 4, Sora wo muru, watching the sky for 5 minutes without a phone. There is a specific Japanese term for this sky gazing. It is not meditation. It is not zoning out. It is a recognition that the vastness of the sky resets the nervous system. We spend our day focused on objects that are 18 inches from our face. Our eyes flex into a convergent, strained posture, signaling to the brain that we are hunting. We are in a state of hyperfocus on a small threat or task. When you lift your eyes to the infinite horizon, you trigger something called the oculocardiac reflex. The muscles around the eye relax, which sends a vagal nerve signal back to the heart, telling it to slow down. The brain, perceiving the lack of immediate physical threats in the vast open space, regulates the amygdala. I started doing this on my balcony with my morning green tea. I would slide open the glass door, step out onto the cool concrete, and tilt my head back. The sky was a blank slate, sometimes a sharp winter blue, sometimes a smeared watercolor of gray clouds. I did not think, I did not plan. I just watched the clouds change shape. One morning I followed a small, fluffy cloud as it drifted from the left edge of my vision to the right, slowly dissolving into a wisp. It felt like watching a slow-motion wave. It sounds like nothing. It sounds like the advice a lazy person gives so they do not have to do cardio. But a physiological stress assessment out of Chiba University compared forest viewing with urban viewing and found that the expansive depth of field and the natural fractal patterns of the sky specifically enhance parasympathetic activity more effectively than simply closing your eyes. The honest hiccup here is that your brain will get bored. It will scream for a podcast or a quick scroll. It will try to solve your work tasks while you stare. Let it. Do not try to silence your thoughts. Just keep your eyes on the sky. The shift happens passively. You are not wasting 5 minutes. You are taking the dial of your nervous system and manually turning it from gear 10 down to gear 2. Habit number 3, itadakimasu. This is the habit that healed my relationship with food more than any diet ever has. Before a Japanese meal, you place your hands together. You bow slightly to the food and you say, itadakimasu. And this is where the translation surprises people. It does not mean bon appetit. It does not mean thank you for the food. It literally translates to I humbly receive. Its roots are in the act of receiving a gift from a superior, placing the item high on the forehead. The phrase acknowledges that the life of the plant or the animal has been transferred to give you energy. It is a moment of profound, non-religious gratitude. We in the West scroll on our phones while shoveling salad into our mouths, not even tasting the dressing. We have a strange adversarial relationship with food, viewing it as either a guilty pleasure or a math equation. By performing itadakimasu, even silently, you break the spell of mindless consumption. For 30 days, I placed my hands together before every meal. I took one single second to visualize the hands that grew the rice, the soil that nourished the plant, the rain that fell, the truck driver who hauled it. I would sit with my bowl of miso soup, the steam curling into my nostrils, the earthy smell filling my lungs, and I would whisper under my breath, itadakimasu. It was intensely awkward for the first week. I felt like a fraud, like I was performing a stereotype in my own kitchen. But by day 15, I noticed I was chewing slower. I was tasting the salt more clearly. The miso paste seemed more complex, nuttier. The tofu's silkiness registered on my tongue in a way it never had. I was feeling satiety deeper. This is not a magic spell, it is a sensory lens. When you receive your food humbly, you cannot hate it. You cannot fear it, you can only experience it. The caution here is that you might be tempted to rush through it as just another word to say before eating. Slow down, mean it. Even if the feeling is not there at first, the posture of gratitude eventually seeps into the heart. If you do one thing from this list, make it this. Just pause and receive your next bite. Habit number 2. The seasonal display. Walk into a Japanese home and you will find a strange, specific object. A bare branch in a vase. A single chrysanthemum. A persimmon placed on a small wooden plate. This is not just decoration. It is a connection to the natural rhythm of the month. A practice known as kachufugetsu, experiencing the flower, bird, wind, and moon. We have insulated ourselves from the seasons. We pump the same temperature air year-round. We eat strawberries in December. We live in a climate-controlled loop, which creates a subtle, gnawing background anxiety, a disconnect from the passage of time. A study on seasonal affective patterns from Kyoto Prefectural University of Medicine noted that individuals who actively note the changing of seasonal cues experience a stabilization of serotonin fluctuations more pronounced than those who ignore the season. By observing a plum blossom branch in spring, you are not just looking at a flower. You are acknowledging that time is moving, that this period is ending, that a new one is beginning. I started with a single stone I picked up on a walk. It was a smooth, dark gray river rock, cool in my palm. I placed it on a small wooden coaster on my windowsill. The next week, I cut a single stem of blooming rosemary from a neighbor's garden and put it in a little glass bottle. The stone suddenly looked like a mountain behind a fragrant forest. It changed the entire energy of the room. A month later, I swapped it for a small, gnarled branch I found after a storm. Its bark peeling, and that became my winter display. It anchors your room to the geological calendar, not the fiscal quarter. It reminds your body that you are an animal living in a cycle, not a machine on a treadmill. A gentle caution: do not turn this into a shopping trip. Do not go to home decor store and buy a faux autumn leaf. The power is in the found, the temporary, the imperfect. Look outside. Find one thing that screams this specific week to you and bring it inside. It is a clock that tells you to breathe instead of to panic. And finally, habit number 1. The most impactful, the most foundational, the hardest to sell to a Western skeptic. Akage-sama. This is not a physical action. It is an internal script. Akage-sama is a common Japanese phrase that literally means thanks to you, or because of you. It is the antidote to the Western myth of the self-made man. When someone asks a Japanese elder, "How are you?" the answer is often, "Akage-sama de genki desu." I am well thanks to you. I am well because of your support. This is not false humility. This is an acknowledgement of radical interconnectedness. The air you breathe came from the trees. The coffee you are addicted to was picked by hands you will never shake. Your existence in this exact moment is a miracle of millions of invisible kindnesses. We, in our hyper-individualistic culture, are crushed under the weight of believing we have to do it all ourselves. This creates a loneliness epidemic that is actually more lethal than smoking. According to a meta-analysis from Brigham Young University. But we place the data here. The feeling of isolation is a biological killer. Every morning for the last 30 days, before I got out of bed, I whispered, "I am here because of you." I pictured my editor, who gave me the flexibility to write this script. I pictured the farmer in Shizuoka, whose green tea leaves I was about to steep. I pictured my friend who texted me the stupid meme last night that made me laugh out loud. And the feeling that welled up in my chest was not pride. It was a floating, buoyant relief. It felt like a heavy backpack I did not know I was wearing had been lifted off. I did not have to struggle. I was being carried. This is the opposite of toxic positivity. It is radical orientation. Our brains have a negativity bias for survival, and a gratitude bias is a deliberate, counterinstinctual act of rebellion. An honest caution. At first, you might resist this because it feels like codependence or a denial of your own effort. That is the Western ego talking. You can still have agency while acknowledging the web of support. Try it tomorrow. Before your feet hit the floor, whisper Akage-sama to no one and everyone. If you only took the compound interest of Kaizen, that 1% improvement a day, and applied it to this single phrase, Akage-sama, by the end of a year, you would not be 37 times richer. You would be 37 times more alive. These 12 habits are not a miracle, they are a restoration. They do not require money, they do not require a plane ticket, they do not require a genetic test. They simply require a pause. The Japanese did not unlock a secret cheat code to the human nervous system. They simply refused to bulldoze the ancient pathways. You can have the clean water of a sa-ikai. You can have the clearing ritual of asoji. You can have the gratitude of itadakimasu. You can claim the stillness of kamorbai and the humility of Akage-sama. Pick one, just one, hike it out today. Lower the bar until it is impossible to fail, and watch the compound progress of ancient wisdom quietly wash the modern static out of your life. It is not magic, it is habits, and they are waiting for you.